Hello, everyone. Welcome to April 16th, Embodied Temporalities. I'm Jess Korp, and I'm moderating the dialogical exploration between myself, artist and cultural practitioner Dumama, and Thokozani Heidi Sincuba. And we're very curious what you're going to think of it. So please post your questions either in the YouTube comment section or get in touch with us and DM us, slide into our DMs. And you can find our Instagram handles on the OU website or Instagram site. And let us build narratives together and collectively. And decolonize the panel discussion as being divided in experts and audience, and let's weave these threads all together. And followed by our dialogical exploration, we will see a performance by Dumama and Pure. And I am very honored to be part of this, and thanking everyone who's working very hard behind the scenes of making all of this work and keeping shit together and not fall into shambles. So I'm wishing everyone on every side of this event a good time and stay healthy, and wishing you all much love and light.
Yes, welcome everyone to our explorative, discursive, dialogical journey together with Dumama and Thokozani Heidi Sincuba. And my name is Jess Korp, and together with Dumama, we're part of the Out of Time Embassy collective. And yes, today we will be speaking on taking roots in the flesh and what that means to us and how we invoke that in our practices. But briefly, I want to introduce my two dear friends and muses and mentors. Today with me is Gugulethu Duma, also known as Dumama. She's an artist and sonic researcher born in South Africa. Their transdisciplinary practice involves consciously deconstructing and critiquing archaic modes of representation of Southern Africa, African sonic and performance culture. Ritualizing modes of togetherness, Dumama is concerned with the ways in which new forms can originally emerge when collaborations can center in an intimacy and openness. Their interest intersects as practice-based performance research and interdisciplinary collaborative bodies of work centered around political poetic imaginations. Also here is Thokozani Heidi Sincuba, a South African artist and speculative thinker who embodies the erotic as power against violence, toxicity, and erasure. They studied at the University of Cape Town, Artes Arnhem, and hold an MFA from Goldsmiths University of London, and are active in several exhibitions, fairs, and conferences yearly. They have exhibited in the Netherlands, Germany, the United Kingdom, United States, and South Africa. Their most recent solo exhibition was part of the National Arts Festival in Makhanda. They're currently the head of painting at the university, currently known as Rhodes, South Africa. I'm very, very honored and very grateful that both of you are here today with me and trusting the process. And more than a panel discussion, I'm interested in taking this as a liberatory and confessional space where we can get together and share uncommon and shared experiences, but also shed some light on differences. And I would like to start with a quote from Zora Neale Hurston, Black writer and anthropologist. And this excerpt is from her book written in 1934 called The Characteristics of Negro Expression. And the quote reads, "It is the lack of symmetry which makes Negro dancing so difficult for white dancers to learn, the abrupt and unexpected changes. The frequent changes of key and time are evidence of this quality in music. The dancing of the justly famous Bojangles and Snake Hips are excellent examples. The presence of rhythm and a lack of symmetry are paradoxical, but both are present to a marked degree. There's always rhythm, but it is the rhythm of the segments. Each unit has a rhythm of its own, but when the whole is assembled, it is lacking in symmetry, but easily workable to a Negro who is accustomed to the break in going from one part to another, so that he adjusts himself to a new tempo. Negro dancing is a dynamic suggestion. No matter how violent it may appear to the beholder, every posture gives the impression that the dancer will do so much more." And it might seem a little outdated for us as readers in 2021, but contextualizing the emergence of these words where the act of self-describing, especially for Black people, has been, it was very much excluded to the white colonizers that were describing and naming and categorizing and therefore ordering. So this act of coming up with almost a glossary of practices that are emerging in the subcultures of people, but then also taking on this empowering act of self-describing when African art was considered nothing more than primitive and could not compete with so-called high art. Yes, so I kind of want to open the space for you, and the ancestor I conjured and brought with me today was Zora, having influenced me deeply. But maybe you both want to share your perspectives and also name an ancestor that is with you today.
Thank you so much, Jess, for those really wonderful introductions. We are honored also to be moderated by you, and really excited to weave our experiences and share our memories and share what has taken root in the flesh for us and our ancestors. When I think of an ancestor to conjure into the space, I think of my grandmother, Nomjikizo, Gladys Duma. She's been coming up a lot for me in my processes, and I'm always singing songs to her. This year marks 2 years since she's transitioned, and she's coming up for me because she's been featuring in my dreams quite a lot in the last couple of days. So I look forward to unfolding the voice with you guys, and just seeing, and sharing how she has come up and what she wants me to know and share. Um, yes, and being on South African soil at the moment for the first time since her passing, actually. I left 2 weeks after she passed. Being back here feels like really the closing of something to be observed, unpacked, and shared, and articulated. Something that is very nonlinear, something that is excavational now lives at the center of yeah, the circle. And I think at the moment, I've been trying to articulate how ritualistic experiences live in our bodies, and how our ancestry lives in our bodies, and how we then express those messages and memories that are being transmitted constantly at lightning speed, and in seemingly inaccessible ways, only because of the ways we've been taught and told we create knowledge and access. So it's only inaccessible because we've been trapped in this linear way of, I guess, unpacking what we contain. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to, like you say, sharing where we've gone. And I will share a short piece that I wrote when I thought about taking root in the flesh. And then I'll hand over to Heidi. So I said, whenever there's a ululation and a clapping of hands, join me. Mirror me, celebrate life, connect with the infinite. There's so much pain and liminality and suffering. The shared history is dense, and the positionality responsibilities weigh heavy. I wonder how long I will wish for a different past for me and my ancestors. How long will their deaths live in my body? How long will the millennia and millennia stream endlessly down my face? I see Nomjikizo's eyes, Umam Sukwini. This is her clan name. They're looking for Queen Elizabeth, and this is where some of the crisis was born. Liberation and the universal crisis. She gave birth, and her life melted into the cellular system of her son, my father. She's present, but we never spoke. She loved me. We would sleep in the same bed often. My sister always kept her distance. She always has. I see now it's because of how actively she carries in her body. Her ears itch, her shoulders shake, her feet on fire, stars with every step, explosions. Somehow, we both carry. I pray for a soberer life, a healthy life, a peaceful life. It feels possible. My manifestations are a fast fire. I am water, I am soil. Ndingumhlaba, ndingamanzi, ndingumhlaba, ndingamanzi. Practice takes root in the flesh and bone. Memory moves and shakes, merging with blood, awakening ancestral body noise, silence shared across lifetimes and lifelines, thread and stitch a life into the dead.
Tamaku. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, both of you, for very comforting and encompassing introductions. I feel very held, and I feel honored and grateful to be in a space where I feel safe and I feel like I can share my thoughts and they will land in ears and hearts that connect, that reflect. So yeah, thank you for that. A lot of my practice is very concerned with, I guess, what is the theme of this conversation. And what I'm learning is that it's something that's very difficult to discuss in a language that isn't necessarily that hasn't taken root in the flesh, because we do know English, we know these European languages, we know the language of academia and the language of intellectual discourse, but we all also know it doesn't necessarily sit with us the same way as some languages that are perhaps not as logical, perhaps asymmetrical, as Hurston says, you know. So I would I'd like to do a bit of my introduction in one of those asymmetrical languages, and they may not necessarily make sense to some, but as we heard from that quote, they do make sense to others, and you don't necessarily have to know a specific language to understand that kind of asymmetry. So if you bear with me, I just want to start like that, okay? Thokozani bantu abadala, thokozani bantu abadala, thokozani bantu abadala, amvelelane, anokhululane, ukuthembeka kwasincumo umzukulwane wenu. Ngihamba noJessica oseJalimane, ngihamba noDumama oseKapa. Bantu abadala, siyabazukulwane benu, senza umsebenzi bantu abadala esithunywe yini ukuthi siwenze. Bantu abadala, amazwi azophuma emlomeni wethu bantu abadala, unikeni amandla bantu abadala, sikhulume ngokukhanya bantu abadala, silalela nina bantu abadala ngoba sithunywe yini. Bantu abadala, le ndlela ayikho lula bantu abadala, kodwa siyocela-ke bantu abadala ukuthi nikhwele emahlombeni ethu bantu abadala, nisihambise bantu abadala kule ndlela bantu abadala ngokuhlakanipha. Bantu abadala, siqiniseni njengabazukulwane benu, njengabantu abahamba emhlabeni bantu abadala, bephila impilo bantu abadala eyazalwa yini. Bantu abadala, nineni phansi nineni phezulu bantu abadala, indlela sihamba ngamandla enu bantu abadala, ngokuhlakanipha kwenu bantu abadala. Siyanibonga bantu abadala ukuthi imizimba yethu noma ingekho kanye kanye bantu abadala, noma bantu abadala ingekho nomphakade, siyanibonga bantu abadala ukuthi sikwazi bantu abadala ukuhamba ngeenyawo zenu bantu abadala, bona ngamehlo enu bantu abadala. Sibusiseleni-ke bantu abadala lolu hambo, nisinike amandla bantu abadala nokukhanya bantu abadala ukuthi umsebenzi wethu bantu abadala kube umsebenzi ofiswa yini bantu abadala. Amaphupho enu awafezeke bantu abadala emzimeni yethu bantu abadala. Siphilisa nina bantu abadala, siyanibonga bantu abadala, thokozani makhosi. Thokozani makhosi. Thokozani makhosi. Thank you. Thank you. Thokozani.
Thank you.
Wow.
What a genius gesture. That is a gesture of sheer genius in every way. Like penetrating at every level.
And it's not ours, guys. It's a gesture that was invented centuries ago. It's a gesture that survived time and space, whether you're a Black person on the continent or in the Americas. It's a gesture that has survived, that we understand no matter where and how we exist. It just transcends, you know, and we're just grateful as young people, as unknowing people, to be able to have received a semblance of, you know, and be able to share it with each other.
Yeah, it's also reminding me of the ritualistic practices that Gugu also mentioned that live and survive in our body. And maybe Gugu, is a good time for, maybe you can just quickly share some of your work on ancestral body noise, which is also part of the Embodied Temporalities Festival.
Yes. Just how these gestures and these rituals and these memories are transmitted from generation to generation, sort of like in a way assimilating to the times, but also still allowing each carrier of these messages to time travel in a way. And in Ancestral Body Noise, which is a program that is biomythographical ritualistic research. Um, um, we spend we spend this quality time, you know, moving, writing with our voices, connecting um, with this infinite memory bank, um, and exploring. Heidi's frozen. I wonder if she can hear us.
Heidi, can you hear us?
I love that it's just frozen in this smile.
Yeah, it's like also infinite memory bank of all smiles.
Heidi, are you back?
You guys?
Your voice was okay. We'll talk.
I'm just gonna hope that she can hear me. But it's important to preserve and transmit it, but it's also very important to not get trapped in this sort of prescriptive and somewhat predictable way of archiving and sharing and even like performing it, because there is a fine line between taking the ethnographic research on Black ritualistic practices and re-performing it for a white gaze that has then archived and organized it, versus really sort of like the embodiment and honoring of your personal transmission process and how that ancestry and how the ritualistic components of our ancestry have lived in our bodies and in our parents' bodies, and you know, honoring the complex multidimensional ways that the messages come to us. And yeah, sort of not getting trapped in, like I said, this prescriptive tourism heritage version of who we are and how we preserve and how we share, but really sort of being able to listen to the multidimensionality within yourself. There are so many blocks preventing that And what I'm honored about in terms of ancestral body noise is existing with a group that is just like moving around this blowtorch and burning holes in those blocks and just like melting it to water. And I experienced it viscerally when we did it together, Jess. It was myself from South Africa, Jess of Ethiopian-German descent, grew up in Ethiopia. Kareem of Algerian-German descent, grew up in Germany. Astan of French-Malian descent, grew up in France. Nane Kale of Senegalese and Ivory Coast and French descent, grew up in Senegal, Ivory Coast, and France. Beverly Kotawali. Yes, and Guadeloupe. Beverly Kotawali of Congolese descent, growing up in France. And then Exose of Congolese descent, growing up in France. And so, you know, the preservation work of each of these individuals, but then also coming into a group that is coming from so many different places, but still has these like roots, deep roots and curiosities and inclinations to connecting with the continent. It was spectacular, and yeah, it was a phenomenal learning experience, but also taught me a lot about how to honor a non-linear way of engaging with that messaging and with that ancient ritual, and the way that it can shapeshift.
Yeah, and what I have, what still echoes with me from that research and performance was, first of all, my healing my relationship to my maternal grandmother, whom I had a very strong sense of shame around because she didn't speak the languages that I spoke, which also made her different. And therewith, I had to, there was like judgment, and there was rupture, political borders in between. Addressing that sense of shame meant also like cleansing myself from the self-diagnosed colonial white man that is like there when I'm looking at things and experiencing things. So, you know, when Heidi said like, it might not make sense to some, it's also like deconstructing what making sense actually means. And also going with the shadow and the unknowability of things, and also looking at the haunting. And that in turn made me think of an anecdote Heidi once shared with me with your experience of a haunting in form of a doodle of a tree. And if you would like to share that anecdote, I would be very grateful. Oh, yeah.
Well, first I wanted to try and respond to what Gugu was saying about first this like kind of touristy version of what Black culture is, you know, or how we experience our lives, and also this gaze of when you present your work. I mean, I know in feminism we talk a lot about the male gaze, but I'm so curious about, in the context of this conversation, about the white gaze, and how sometimes you there's a term, I actually forgot who came up with this, but one of the OGs talked about double consciousness, you know, and I think a lot of the time in creative practice, we are faced with that choice of, do you then step away from, let's say, embodied knowledge because you are worried about how it will be read, because you're worried about that gaze, or do you just lean into it and not even factor the reading of Europeans in your practice, you know? And not to say that it's that binary, like a lot of the time it's a combination of those things. But I'm really interested in the presentation of this work at this festival and all these beautiful cocktails of, you know, Black cultures, and how that sits in terms of being read, being watched, you know, because obviously the male gaze and the white gaze is part of that presentation. And I think we've reached a point, you know, now that the baton has been crossed to us, that, you know, we have to start thinking about those next levels. Like, yes, double consciousness is a thing. Now, how do we contextualize our work within that space? Because obviously it's not either or, you know. But just let me talk about the doodle real quick. And actually the thing of language is really pertinent here as well. We went to a space with my congregation, I guess that's what it's called. But there's a bunch of people, and we are there's traditional healers of all levels, and even, you know, amateurs or, you know, just people that get together and are interested in trying to, yes?
Quick question, is esigodlweni, like, it makes me think of esikolweni. It makes me think of school.
It's kind of like that, but it's in terms of indigenous knowledge, learning and experiencing.
Exactly.
Like,
It's like
yeah,
esikolweni plus
yeah,
edladleni. So like
exactly.
school and home.
You got it.
Word.
Yes, it's that. And so in this space, there's a figure who, his name is Umkhulu Nsingaza, and he actually was a protege of Credo Mutwas. And so he's very interested and connected to Credo's teachings. And he took us to this place called Enzalo Yelanga, which Europeans will know as Adam's calendar. And it's got one of the oldest structures in the world. It's like really like 200,000 years old. And then Credo Mutwa was initiated there as a traditional healer. And he has a place that he writes about called, it's called Credo's Tree, right? And it's in this space of Inzalo Yelanga. And this place is fascinating, like the way that it's built. Actual Western scientists, because we trust their findings more than what we say, but they found it to be positioned in a way that it aligns with the stars in Orion's, what is it? You know, Orion's belt, that constellation.
I don't know Orion's belt. Why
So
is he Orion, and why are we so obsessed
exactly.
with belt?
Well, in terms of Credo Mutwa's teachings and indigenous knowledge, it's actually called Ezingulubeni, but white people will know it as Orion's belt. So it's a constellation, and these things reflected, and they're huge, and people still don't understand how people constructed this 200,000 years ago. And so we sat, Umkhulu took us to this tree, to Credo Mutwa's tree, and like Credo Mutwa said, you can feel the energy. It is a force field. And according to Mutwa, it connects to other sites like Stonehenge, like all the other sites with really old structures in the world. He says you can feel the resonance of that energy in that space. And so we were there meditating, and I'm looking at this tree and I'm thinking, man, I know this tree. And I remember when I dreamt for the first time, when my grandfather came to me, I kept saying, I saw him at a tree. I saw him hanging from a tree. And then I think I was like, I can't even remember how old I was, but all of my work since then has had this tree. Like the tree exists either in a doodle or a print. Like I just have had iterations and iterations of this tree. And I even drew it as we were sitting there on the sides. I even thought, because I didn't even want to bring cameras and things like that, because it's such a sacred space, you know, but I was like, I've got my notebook and I'm gonna like doodle this tree, which I've seen in dreams, in my own work, in so many different things. And this, I mean, relates to what we call embodied knowledge. You know, there's so, I mean, even if I look at other aspects of my work, like I always use red, white, and blue. And I really didn't understand why. I used to think it's because I'm talking about European flags or whatever. And then coming into this indigenous practice, I know that red, white, and blue, like, you know, it just seems like this knowledge is unraveling as you go deeper into, you know, self, into like your own, not the European, not the Western, not this like what we think knowledge is. And you just like sink into what is just around you. And you're like, no, this knowledge, it's not even being taught to me because it was me. Like it was always with me. And I just had to like understand it. But it's like, it creates itself. Yeah. And then one more story, okay? Sorry,
Yeah.
one last anecdote of when we're sitting in this tree and we're like in a circle, and now like this site is like really well known. So Europeans, like tourists, were coming in the space, and we're busy meditating, and Mkulu is talking to us, and he gets more and more visibly upset as there's white people coming and they've got cameras and they start taking pictures, you know. And all of a sudden, Kulu changes from talking his Zulu and like vernac, and he starts speaking English, you know, and he's like, this is our land. And, you know, we like, you know, he gets like so upset. And you can see the shift of him changing from talking to the land and talking to the tree and talking to us. And then when we become spectacles and these people are like, wow, look at all these Africans meditating in this space. And then they start taking pictures, and then he translates himself. You know, he starts speaking to them instead of us. I mean, maybe all of us, but I just like really noticed that visible moment of us talking to ourselves and focusing on this, and then like shifting because of the gaze, you know, and wanting to translate, wanting to be accessible, wanting to make some kind of sense to this outside gaze, which maybe sometimes makes the message less potent, you know. And I recognize this from a leader like of mine, like this is my elder, but I just like was so shook that we put ourselves in that position, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And that was so vivid, and also clearly makes my blood pressure just like rise. And because I very much identify with this double bind of reacting against and owning and claiming and rediscovering. And I know for a really long time, Heidi, you and I have been attending Goldsmiths at the same time with a very similar and shared sense of this doesn't quite couch well with us. Something about this doesn't resonate with our spirit. But then there was very much this idea of also how we were socialized, that earning a university degree means something, and it elevates you into another class or social status or whatsoever. And what it also did for me was very much I struggled with depression afterwards, with sense of loss and non-belonging, and having a sort of heightened sense of entitlement to the world because now I have a Goldsmith degree and whatnot, to like 5 years later reconnect with you and see where our spirit took us after all that, and processing this and being here, being able to have these conversations, and then also being like, things fall into place, they will guide us. There's no lost time, there's no lost endeavor or work. And so the double consciousness, who was W.E.B. Du Bois, yeah, the homie, is something where I feel like this is a very recent discovery from me as well, is to know that we too are somebody's ancestors, and that we have a responsibility. And what do we do with what is given to us? And I think that is this fine line of coming out of this reactionary sensation and going into the creationary movement of things. So yeah, I just want to open that up for you to resonate and do something with it.
Thank you both so much for the places you're allowing us to go. I'm just like, ah. So just like so many dazzling occurrences coming up for me. And just thinking about this double consciousness, this multiplicity, and this constant tension of having to engage with the gaze, protest the gaze, transcend the gaze, and return to the voice that is most loving and most true and really most you. Like you were saying, oh, umkulu, just the shift in tone, the aggression, and the violence of the language, um, and the protectiveness of it, and the sort of friction it then creates with how we are able to talk to ourselves and hold ourselves and be there with ourselves. Yeah, and then how it, can, like how Jess said, create a double bind of also then performing a self that is so deeply entangled with this violence. And what does that detangling process look and feel like? I could say definitely like this. This moment we're in right now feels like a part of that detangling in a real way. Um, having having not been to a tertiary institution, it just never worked for me. I tried, and I never felt at home, much to my parents' dismay. I was like, I need to sing. Nothing else makes sense. I just need to feel my voice reverberating in my chest, and I will serve people food until I can make sense of that. And I've spent the last 10 years really trying to understand this need to sing. And my travels have led me to Makulma Dosini, who is building and playing uhati and umkhube and these amazing traditional instruments that are, ancient artifacts and ancient transmission instruments, I can say. And again, aiding the unfolding of that voice, the unfolding of a tenderness and a holding. And I just remember like first coming into contact with her voice, her messages, like this poetic and political and cheeky and playful, and very deep as well, sort of like lyrical exploration,
And
and
maternal, Gugu.
and maternal.
Feminine, like not maternal in the linear sense, like, but like just the divine feminine in her energy is just, yeah.
Crucial. Um, and you know, without Kulima Dosini, I don't think that this ancestral body noise would have been awakened. The curiosity about it couldn't have happened. And I remember first encountering her and feeling like, this is what I need to do. This is where I need to be. She's like held my hand to the door, uh, that is like, the room, like taking me to my liberation. She just took me there. And what I will say is, it was a transcendence that was still tense. And coming into contact with her experiences and her sort of oppressions and her performance, um, of her practice and her experience of her practice and her feeling of like not feeling held by her community and feeling celebrated by Westerners who are gazing and consuming, eating the other, as Bell Hooks calls it, um, in a way that you know makes it possible for her to reach us. You see this intervention of the gaze because of how we've been taught to see. I mean, I didn't go to university, but I went to primary school and high school, and all of the white women who were my teachers, who were taking up the space of my mother and grandmother and grandmothers. It's like 6-7 hours a day with these women who are saying, you know, don't speak Koza. And then once it became time to speak it, it was like, speak more Koza, we love it. And that that very contradicting thing leading to so much disillusionment, um, is still something I'm trying to detangle, and still something that confronts me. And I think I'm really, wondering, Heidi, being, and people see it as brave. It is very brave and courageous to enter the academy with all of this knowledge and all of this experience, and be brave enough to honor, um, what is being transmitted to you and honor these rituals, and um, arrive with your entire being in this way. Um, and I say it's brave because you're entering the wrestling pit, and being confronted by these voices, these sociologists' voices that are like, don't speak Xhosa, please speak Xhosa. And what sort of ancestral interactions are happening that disturb the peace? And how do you navigate that in the sacred practice? Um, yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for that reflection. But I wouldn't say brave, I would say naive. I think that's what it was. I think a lot of the time, bravery and naivety maybe are entangled with each other. But yes, the academy is a very toxic space, even if you aren't in tune with some of the things I find myself in tune with. Just existing as a Black body in the institution can just be so dangerous. So, I mean, I'm still trying to find a way that these two can exist with each other, because one thing I don't want to do, it's like when people say, for example, oh, Cape Town is so white, like, no, why you should go to Joburg? Why do you want to be in Cape Town? And I always ask them, like, so you want me to leave all of that for white people to just enjoy? You want me to leave Table Mountain alone and the beach and all of that and just say, because it's white, I'm not engaging? That's not it. Like, I feel that as Black people in these spaces, we are there, first of all, for a reason. It goes back to what we were saying about things unraveling and just falling into place. Like, we may not know it now because we're in the thick of it, and it's really difficult. But the fact that we take up space, but my question is to the older generation, okay? Why is it always backwards that we have to go? That is part of why we constantly become undermined in these institutions, because they've already labeled us as primitive, archaic, and we fall under like anthropology and ethnography and all these terms which put us in a space where we are at odds with the contemporary moment. And I have a vision, a desire to be an African that is contemporary, that is part of the shift forward, but has that added element of being very much in touch with what's come before. Someone once said at a conference that African time is not linear, it's spiral. It's not even a circle, because a circle is finite. It's a spiral, it just keeps coming back on itself. And I think that's what we need to tap into in these institutions. Like, yes, we're not completely at home in these spaces because they deal with a space and a moment where we are not the winners. Like, we're not going to win the game of capitalism. We're not going to win the game of even English or academic writing, whatever. All these things are rigged so that we are placed in the past. So now what we need to do is take that past, which we're so good at, we've mastered that thing of being in the past, and still be in this moment, you know, like still respond to it in a way that it is part of us. We are alive, we're here, we've got flesh, we've got bodies that live in this moment that's going forward. And we can like harness these knowledges and capabilities that we have of this time that just is not necessarily that linear forwardness that Western knowledge wants us to think it is. So speaking of the past, I want to talk about, in response again, Gugu, to what you were talking about, of the voice and about singing and about Tumatonsini and her, and how her voice resonated with you. And it felt to me like that resonance was about the divine feminine. And it reminds me of this very same conversation, and makes me think of Ukredo Mutwa's story about creation, and about how Unum Kubulwane, the great mother, it actually started as an oppression, like the tree of life, and her, it sounds like a not completely consensual situation happened between them in order for life to be created. And it resonates to this moment so hard, because as Black women, as Black people, there's a force that wants us to remain at the bottom of that situation. So pain and violence and all these horrible things are imposed upon us, right? And instead of fighting, which Nomkubulwane did, she kept running away from the tree of life and running and running and running, not knowing that in order, when he catches her, which he inevitably will, he's the tree of life, you know, and that's how it is. He's got all these branches that are everywhere, and he's going to catch you, Mugyal, and rape you, right? And when she finally was caught, all of this stuff happened, you know, and she birthed Mother Marimba, who invented music, you know, who is like the one that decided this thing cannot just speak, it also sings, you know, all of these beautiful moments of creation. And again, Umarimba, pain, suffering, all these horrible things. But once she leaned into it, you know, like at that moment of the creation of music, comes out of pain and loss and violence, but then the marimba is created because of that moment, you know? So I want us to like try and flip the script a little bit and be like, yes, we held down, you know, they don't want us here. They want us to be subservient. They want us to be fetishized. They want us to be, you know, objects. And that sucks. But like, what can we do with that moment? Like, what kind of creation can happen? Because that seems to be, in African cosmology, that seems to be our magic, you know, that we can take the most horrible conditions and create everything that you see. We did that, you know, out of the pain, out of all of the awful shit that we have to deal with. So I think if we start flipping that, we don't even victimize ourselves, you know, we recognize that from all this ugliness emerges the divine feminine, who is the creator of all these things. And through this pain and like, you know, awfulness, we can embody like everything. Like we can literally write ourselves a new script by like rejecting this narrative and just being like, yeah, you're gonna oppress me, but watch what I can do. Watch what I can turn that into, you know.
Yo, that's the ululation. That's Gugu's poem in the beginning. You shared with us, and also when Heidi was speaking, I had to think of the tarot card, the Fool, which is also the number 0, the beginning of the life cycle, is naivety and braveness. It goes like so close to each other, and it's actually also the Eurocentric view of the Fool as being downgraded, but it's actually the beginning of every journey, is to say exactly what both of you have been saying. We have the past, we've mastered it. We've been to our different settings of colonial gazes, of the tourist gaze, of the white gaze, of the male gaze. But what about us, you know? Can the subaltern speak? And can it dance and can it sing? We can only find out if we give ourselves the space to find out and explore, which is why these spaces, the dialogical exploration, is so valuable and so sacred also, almost to me, to myself. I've set up an altar because I know I'm going to speak to you guys today. But unfortunately, we're also on colonial time. And damn it. So I'm just going to open the space a little bit and see if there are questions coming in the comment section of our live stream. Yeah, and then we're going to meet again for a live Q&A in a little bit. Yes, my teachers, friends, sisters, it has been a pleasure and an honor being here with you. And a word that resonated very strongly also from both of you said it, crisis. I heard crisis, and I thought this is a very, very, there's a journey ahead and we can walk it together, but I am ululating, knowing that I am going to be able to do it with you guys, far or near. In that sense, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And next up, we have a performance by Purity Mkize, also known as Pure Lee, responding to Taking Root in the Flesh. And after her, I'll be doing a performance responding to Taking Root in the Flesh and completely carrying all of these messages and honoring all of the portals that have now been open. And I hope that you enjoy. Thank you so much to my sisters from their omnipotent, omnipresent force. And to the future we go, flying backwards into the future.
Ugoza.
Yes. I see.
She's got to take you home. Remember the lush green grass beneath the big oak trees, The air was so cool there, the sun didn't burn. She's come to take you home. Remember the felt, the lush green grass beneath the big oak trees. The air was so cool there. The sun didn't burn. She's come to pull you away from the poking eyes of the man-made monster that these clutches on imperialism and dissects your body bit by bit by bit by bit. She's come to take you home. Remember the felt? The baby was born, little and fast. The evening it chokes while the candle it burns. It never stops, it will never learn. No hope without dope, and so the jobless return. anchors have failed, the mighty retreat, the pleasure it fails at the end of the week. You take it or leave, you take what you receive till what you receive is eternity. Leave, 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 leave.
And that is wonderful. If you're in a forest and there's a bear. But the problem is what happens when the bear comes home at night.
I composed myself, eyes large with unfinished weeping. I composed myself, eyes large with unfinished weeping. I composed myself, eyes large with unfinished weeping. The disconsolate spirit entered while I was sleeping. I asked it, what now? I asked it, what now? What now? What now? What now? What now? Perception. 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 Something about perception. Something about perception. 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 Perception.
Ndiyabona kwabe ndi-20 years yanga kwabe ndi-20 years yanga lusoze ulivanga unxiba njengobusozi
Okay, bye-bye, mama.
ungandifake etrabulini yintoni le uyenzayo ungandifangeli amatrabhuli ukuba
far worse than nothing. Deep inside, then nothing is far worse than nothing. Why there was nothing or nothing is something we must never try to learn. But curiosity she burns. Mother nothingness far worse than nothing. Why? There was nothing but nothing is something we must never try to learn. But our curiosity she burns. Oh, oh God, mother time.
Incandescent lighter doors and adolescent menopause. Little clicks, you get the music stop. Needle sticks and the penny drops. Holy, 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 where are we? Holy, 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 where are we? Holy, 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 where are we? Together. Holy.
Existing as a queer person of colour within my own diasporic experiences has shaped my identity over time. Shifting and changing. A constant forward movement towards a purposeful and much more intentional future.
Towards a purposeful and much more intentional future. Influenced by the weight of my past, currently navigating through the complexities of my very existence and breathing very deeply from the untold stories of my abundant future. There lies this unfathomable strength to dare explore towards greatness, outside of the confines or challenging circumstances of my reality, manifesting my own personal spiritual blueprint that not only liberates but offers profound ancestral healing as I walk this historically drenched territory. This, my embodied experience, identity, is layered, vast, expansive, unfolding, seeking, wealthy, abundant, timeless, gentle, and free of violent oppression, a privilege historically denied to my people.
A